Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this meeting of the Licensing Subcommittee on the 20th of September, starting as we are at 2 p.m. Peter, I'm sorry, it's not Peter, it's you.
Good afternoon. If we could start with the appointment of the chairman, please. Thank you.
I second that proposal.
Thank you. All those in favour? Thank you. Councillor Andrews.
Thank you very much. Haven't been notified of any apologies for absence, so I assume there aren't any. When it comes to announcements, could I just mention that item 8 on the agenda has been withdrawn, so we're considering today just the one item, item 7. Would you join me, colleagues, in approving the minutes of the 8th of August, even if you weren't here? They agree? Lovely. Thank you very much. I'm assuming everybody has read and had access to the summary of the procedure, and we'll go forward on that basis to consider an application for a new premises licence for Coppertod, 48 The Elms in Hertford, which is pages 20 to 69 in the papers. And my first duty is to ask the licensing officer, the senior licensing officer, to introduce the report.
Thank you. Good afternoon to you all. Contained in the papers in front of you is the full report outlining an application for a new premise licence under Licensing Act 2003, Section 17. This report can be found between pages 20 to 33 of the agenda reports pack. As you've already seen the report and the accompanying documents, I shall provide a brief summary of the application and the representations received. On the 23rd of July 2022, an application for a new premise licence was received from the applicant, Aldex Business Services Limited, trading as Coppertod, in relation to a premises at 48 The Elms, Hertford. The proposed application seeks the following licence activities to be granted. This is the supply of alcohol, the consumption off the premises, Monday and Tuesday between 1700 and 2300, Wednesday between 1200 and 2300, Thursday to Friday between 1700 and 2300, and Saturday and Sundays between 0900 and 2300. The premises are not open to the public for sales in person or for collections or pre-orders. It is understood from the applicant this application is solely for use of a micro distillery by the applicant at the premises in his spare time, but I will let the applicant explain this to you. It should be noted that the applicant holds licenses for the production, storage and wholesale sales of alcohol at the premises. These licenses have not been issued by us, but by HMRC being the relevant authority. The application can be found in Appendix A, which is pages 34 to 50. Regarding the steps to promote the licence objectives, the applicant has stated a number of steps. These can be found in pages 94 of the application and are further supported by conditions agreed with Hertfordshire Constabulary in Appendix B, pages 63 to 65 of the report. During the consultation period, there were 2 representations received regarding the application. However, please note that representation on page 68 has been withdrawn. The remaining representation engages the prevention of public nuisance licence objective and is in Appendix C, pages 66 to 67 of the reports pack. The report looks at the East Hart Statement of Licensing Policy, the revised guidance under Section 182 of the Licensing Act 2003, and provides information submitted by the applicant and the interested parties in making the representation. Interested party in making their representation. The subcommittee should determine the application with a view promoting the 4 licensing objectives. In determining the application, the subcommittee should consider if you believe the applicant has provided evidence that if the licence granted in full would promote the licensing objective and not undermine this. This evidence should be balanced against the evidence against those that have made a representation. If members believe that this would not undermine the licence objectives, then the application should be granted in full as requested. If members believe that there is evidence that in granting the licence, this would not promote the licensing objectives, then it's within your remit to take any action that you believe is appropriate and proportionate to address these concerns. Members can attack conditions or take any steps such as limiting hours of licensable activities. Or if there's no steps, then you may refuse the application in its entirety, but this should be the last resort. Subcommittee's determination should be evidence-based, justified as being appropriate for the promotion of the 4 licence objective and proportionate for what is intended to be achieved. That completes my report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just before we move on to clarification and questions, just forgive me, I should have at some stage, it's been a long time since we've done this, I should have introduced ourselves and indeed asked you to introduce yourself. So I'm David Andrews, member for Thunderton Standard, and to my right I have.
I'm Dawn Simon, Bishop Stortford Central.
And the officers supporting us today are.
Michelle Oates, Democratic Services Officer.
Dimple Ruchan, legal advisor.
Brad Wheeler, Senior Licensing Enforcement Officer.
And from the applicant.
Good afternoon. Yes, it's Joe Harvey, solicitor from Poppleston Allen Solicitors.
Andrew Brown,
Applicant.
applicant, yeah.
Lovely, thank you. Madam? Madam? Hello? That's all right. Hello, Jill. Please do. Oh, I see. Okay, well, no, I'll just ask you to introduce yourself at this stage. So Jill Chapman, bless you. Thank you very much. Good. Okay, good to hear from you. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on from there. Colleagues, do you have any questions for the Senior Licence Enforcement Officer? Brad, can I just ask a question? What is your understanding of the licensable activities that take place at the moment on these premises?
At the moment, there are no licensable activities. This would be wholesale production and storage, but there are no. Obviously, this is the point that the applicant has applied for to be able to sell to the public, but as it's been said, there'll be no collections or no members of the public at the premises.
So the activities at the moment that take place are under the auspices of Her Majesty or His Majesty's Customs and Excise, yeah?
Confirmed.
No, thank you very much. Any points of clarification?
Not at this stage, thank you.
Jill, any points there that was that clear? No, I'm not asking you to, I'm just asking if you've got any questions, anything that the officer said, is that? No, okay, thank you. Okay, that being the case, over to the applicant or his representative.
Yes, thank you, councillors. Mr. Brown is the director of Audex Business Services Limited, the applicant company, and is applying for a premises licence, which would effectively allow him to sell home distilled craft gins that he makes at home to members of the public. Unlike other home-based productions of alcohol, like the production of homebrew beer or wine or cider, the distilling of a spirit requires a separate license from HMRC, and he has those authorities to do so, and so is therefore being able to take what was a converted garage and has turned it into a dedicated workspace, so that he has been able to and continues to develop these boutique specialist gins from his home address. We note that the current only valid objection, which is before the committee this afternoon, relates to concerns regarding nuisance. And if I spend a moment telling you councillors how Mr. Brown's operation intends to work, that will hopefully give you some an idea as to what, if any, nuisance this will present to the locality. Mr. Brown is the proposed designated premises supervisor if the committee grant him the application for the premises licence. The production of gin involves distilling spirits which are produced from large quantities of water, smaller quantities of sugar and yeast. They start off with a liquid solution of approximately 100 litres, which is then distilled over a period of just under 2 weeks, that gives a final quantity of base spirit of approximately 20 litres. That is then mixed with other ingredients, and that is then turned into the spirit. In Mr. Brown's case, the spirit that he wishes to concentrate on is gin, and so that's mixed with juniper berries and other ingredients. The most significant ingredient in the production of any spirit is water, and that ingredient, of course, is delivered via the water main, the tap. There's no need for any delivery to the home address for that. The sugar can be 25 kilo bag of sugar, which is the most that Mr. Brown would be able to get through in about 2 weeks, can be readily picked up from places such as of Costco and other cash and carry outlets, and bags of juniper berries and other ingredients. Likewise, they're dried fruits. They can last for a very long time. They can be purchased in bulk, and a large 20-30 kilo bag will last Mr. Brown the vast majority of the year. To put that succinctly, councillors, there will be no need whatsoever for Mr. Brown to have any commercial delivery to his home address in order for the production of these drinks. In terms of the distribution of those drinks, in terms of the preparation of those for distribution, the bottles are kept off site. They don't need to be delivered. They are collected by Mr. Brown from his mother-in-law's house, which is where he keeps the bottles. They're bottled up and then they are sent to the purchaser. At the moment, Mr. Brown is able to wholesale because he has the appropriate authority from HMRC. The license which we seek this afternoon is simply a license that would enable him to take smaller quantities of spirit and sell those to individuals, and his proposed method of doing that is by remote sale, either on the internet or a telephone call or an email. There'll be no customers, no members of the public visiting the home address. The items that are purchased will be delivered, if they are local buyers, by Mr. Brown when he takes care of his day-to-day errands, as he does, or they'll be taken to him to the local post office, where he'll post them off, and there'll be no couriers to his address to collect these items. In effect, councillors, what Mr. Brown wants to achieve by this licence is relatively insignificant to what he's able already to do with the alcohol warehousing license, wholesaling licenses that he has. We recognise that there are concerns from the neighbour, that there will be concerns regarding nuisance, and whilst those concerns are genuinely put forward to this committee, we would certainly hope that, having explained the proposed operation, that you councillors can have every confidence that in fact there'll be no or very little nuisance caused, to members of the locality. Because in effect, Mr. Brown is doing more than the license which he seeks already. In fact, although the distilling of spirits requires an authority from HMRC, distilling of other liquids such as essential oils or other soft drinks doesn't require an authority. And Mr. Brown has been doing that at his home address without any difficulties for his neighbours for the past 3 years. What we hope the committee will conclude is that there is a sensible package of conditions agreed with the police authority, and that with the assurances given today and the demonstration of the proposed model, that this committee can be quite confident, very confident, that no nuisance will arrive at the doors of the neighbours. And of course, there are methods that can be employed should a nuisance arise. But we can give that assurance this afternoon, councillors, that what Mr. Brown proposes to do has been done already for some time without causing that difficulty. And it's quite rare that an applicant is able to say before a committee, "Oh, well, I've actually been doing more or less the same thing and there haven't been any difficulties," because of course licenses are needed. It is a very simple application, councillors, and I don't think it would get any better if I repeated it. So certainly those are our submissions, unless I can assist the committee any further.
No, no, that's helpful. Thank you. Colleagues. Any questions, any thoughts, points of clarification?
I have no questions.
No, okay, thank you. I've got one or two. Is this predominantly going out in 75 centilitre bottles? Just gives an idea on the number of movements really.
70 centilitre bottles or less.
70, okay. The proposed conditions between yourself and the Herts Police talk about digital closed circuit television. They go on to say that the couriers delivering, which in this case you've said will be the post office, must refuse the delivery if it's felt that the recipient is under the influence of drugs or alcohol or under the age of 18 years. I can't see that that's in any way feasible. Or is that normal and accepted, and is that something that the post office have offered you?
This variety of condition, so is the standard condition that which would ordinarily be expected of a mail order premises who are able to distribute using publicly available postage system.
Really help me when I'll follow that up elsewhere. Packaging materials, the only thing you haven't covered, obviously bottles you have, packaging materials, how do they come and go? Well, we know how they go, but how do they come?
I would collect those. I would collect those.
Thank you. No, I've got no other questions.
Perhaps if I could just add get my microphone to work. If Mr. Brown's operation was to work at its absolute maximum capacity, the total maximum theoretical amount of spirit that he would be able to produce per month would be 90 litres. That equates to about 25 litres per week. Indeed.
who have an interest in levying duty on certain products, amongst them, those are products of distillation, in other words, spirits. So that's where the primary legislation, as far as the production comes from. What we're concerned with here today is will the, let's use the word for the want of a better word, distribution of it, offend any of the licensing principles, which we are concerned about. So it's protection of children from harm, public nuisance, criminality, that sort of thing. Have you any other points? I'll come back to you in a minute to talk to us, but have you any points on any? No, you haven't. Okay, that's good. Excuse me. Now is the opportunity for you to talk to us and let us have your views. Could you turn your microphone on, please? The wee thing in the little symbol. That's it.
Right. I got this licensing application, copy of the licensing application, and I mean, I'm just reading it again. Any person wishing to make representation, so you're right. It did actually mention, but I didn't realise the significance of road. But I thought, you know, I was being asked to, if I wish to object, really, as I've been asked on various occasions for planning applications, you know, with houses around. And if you wish to, you just wrote in a letter and explained why you objected. And that was the end of the matter as far as I knew. And I thought this was the same. And but basically, I suppose what I feel is that it was an extraordinary idea to, it sounded as though it was, you know, going to be a licensing premises opening on the estate. And I felt it wouldn't be, wouldn't do much good to the reputation of the estate. And also I was worried about, I mean, I talked to friends about it, or one or two friends, and one of them said, you know, if it snowballs, which obviously you hope it does, and becomes very successful, then, you know, is there any sort of possibility of keeping it constrained in any way once you've got the license? And I thought it's a very quiet part of the estate. You know, it consists of a couple of cul-de-sacs just beyond my house, which is, you know, as yours is, right at the end of the estate, on the edge of the estate. And so it's very quiet, and I mean, we get a certain amount of traffic, obviously, people having food delivered and that sort of thing. But I didn't, you know, didn't welcome the idea of extra traffic. There's enough traffic around anyway. I just really, it's a matter of principle. I just thought I didn't like the idea of alcohol being sold from one of my neighbours' houses. I mean, I don't know Mr. Brown, obviously, but I just felt it wasn't very appropriate, really. But I mean, there were more specific objections, I suppose, but Mr. Wheeler very kindly went through those with me earlier on and gave me the answers to questions that I was asking.
Okay, well, we're very pleased you came,
Well,
and
I
we're here to
mean,
deal with. We're here
I
to
feel
deal with.
terribly guilty
No,
about
no,
it
no,
all.
no. You shouldn't feel anything apart from proud of the fact you're here, and
Well-
you've got an opportunity to you know,
Yes,
to exercise your rights. But
well,
is it,
I can only refer you to my letters. You know, I did have the redacted application afterwards, and it really seemed to reinforce what I'd already said. And as I say, Mr. Wheeler sort of dealt with the questions, the specific questions I asked. I think I was puzzled by the timings, why it went on till 11 o'clock at night or at a weekend. It seemed, you know, I suppose I was a bit suspicious about it all, really.
I think there's more to do with one form fits all, or rather one
Yes.
form doesn't fit all.
Oh, is it?
Or
Yes.
anybody come to that. But no, that's
Yes.
fine. You're here. Has
Yes.
anything I'm going to break away from the protocol strictly under the circumstances. has anything that you've heard from the applicant helped assuage your
Well, I
concerns?
mean, obviously you're doing it already to some extent, and you know, this body that you mentioned, HMRC, if they've approved, presumably from, you know, certain points of view, it's all perfectly acceptable.
Yeah, they're not there to protect your interests. We are.
Right.
They're just there to collect the money.
Yes.
They want to make sure that the Crown gets their revenue. They've got no interest in you, me, or anybody else when it comes to what goes on in the locality. But we have heard today that there'll be no commercial vehicles in the ordinary sense of the word. Bottles are stored off-site, as is packaging and various other bits and pieces. The bottles typically are the standard whiskey or gin flask type bottle, 70 centilitres. Nobody will be coming to the door. The stuff will go out primarily through the post office. There would be no couriers in the normal course of events. And this has been pretty much the case selling wholesale for 3 years. So does that in any way help give you comfort?
Well, it's the fact that it's alcohol, I suppose. I mean, I drink like anybody else, but I just felt that it was inappropriate, you know, to have alcohol being sold on the estate, really. And my son said, would you feel the same if somebody wanted a license to sell artworks? Well, they wouldn't need a license, presumably, to sell artworks. And I said, no, I wouldn't object to that. So I think he felt he'd scored a point there. Yeah, switch it off.
I have a point of clarification, which I can either raise now or the appropriate time. Certainly insofar as the development of this business is concerned, with it being based in a converted garage of a family home, and the sorts of equipment that can be stored in the converted garage of a family home, it isn't scalable. It is going to be as big as it is currently is. And if the business takes off where Mr. Brown is able to think about moving the premises elsewhere, that's a bridge he'll cross at that stage.
No, that's very clear. Okay, thank you. Well, I think we've heard everything we need to hear at this stage. What will happen now is the members of the subcommittee will now retire to consider the evidence. We'll be taking with us a number of officers, but they do not in any way take part in the decision-making process. They're merely there to support us with points of law and with getting it all down and recorded properly. And we thank you in advance for your patience. We'll be back as soon as we can.
Stick there.
Oh, okay.
That's fine.
Conclusion yet. We've come out to explore one or two things. And if we can take you to, I think under 3.7 in the papers on page 22, it states that during the statutory public consultation, the applicant, presumably Mr. Brown, agreed conditions with the police, which are attached much further down in the document around about 65. And I don't want to get into the territory of leading here, but I can't help feeling that some of these are onerous. Others are potentially unworkable. By way of example, a digital circuit television system needs to be installed internally to enable the frontal identification of every person entering the premises. Is that acceptable to you?
It is, sir, and it's already been installed.
Okay. We then go on to this question, and I did sort of allude to it when I was asking about the post office and deliveries. What is the mechanism for the post office to refuse delivery if they believe that the recipient is under 18 or elsewhere under the influence of drugs or alcohol? What mechanism is in place to support that?
What's just been clarified with me, councillors, is that all local deliveries, I think that's going to be delivery within about 10-mile radius, will be done personally by Mr. Brown, and therefore, as the DPS, he'll be acutely aware of his obligations under the licence and the Challenge 25. And in fact, the method of distributing will be via an Amazon fulfillment where they undertake to verify the age upon delivery. I think the way that works, and Mr. Brown will correct me if I'm wrong, that they are taken to the post office where they are subsequently forwarded on to the Amazon fulfillment people who will deliver them and verify the ages of anybody in accordance with the Challenge 25 scheme.
Okay, I'm familiar with that concept. I've seen it apply to knives and various other things. Okay, so you're dropping them at the post office, but the last quarter mile, you say, will be in the hands of another courier. Get an order from Okta, you're not going to take it.
Order from who?
Yeah, Scotland.
Yeah, Amazon Marketplace would be delivering that one.
Into the post office, but it'll come out through Amazon.
Yeah, we either go via the post office to Amazon
Okay.
or at their fulfillment centre, which I think is Wellington City. I would deliver it to.
So it won't just be the post office.
No.
So where does the post office fit in?
Well,
At all?
the post office might deliver it to the Amazon fulfillment centre. It depends where Amazon want me to send the goods to.
All right, thank you. Okay, thank you. We'll retire again. Hopefully when we come back this time, we'll have a decision. Yeah. And I have been reminded that I should have asked the members of the committee if they had any declarations,
I have none.
and I don't. So no declarations of interest, disclosable or otherwise. So having retired and considered the application and the evidence put forward by the interested party, and having heard the representations from the applicant in considering the application for a premises licence for Coppertod 48 The Elms, Hertfordshire, we've reviewed and the various written representations. The licensing subcommittee has determined to grant the application for the supply of alcohol for consumption off the premises, Monday to Tuesday 1700 to 2300, Wednesday 1200 to 12 noon to 2300, Thursday to Friday 1700 to 2300, Saturday, Sunday 0900 to 2300. The members have also agreed to grant the licence subject to the conditions proposed by the applicant and those agreed between the applicant and Hertfordshire Constabulary as noted at Appendix B. In granting this application, members are mindful of the concerns raised by the interested party and are assured the applicant will take steps to negate those concerns. A signed decision notice will be sent to the parties within 5 working days, and parties have a right to appeal against the decision, and details of how to appeal will be noted within the decision notice. That's the only business we have today. So there being no urgent business, I close the meeting at 15:05.